Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Trump Trolls Trump. You know how it goes. Somebody with a certain last name relentlessly and righteously mocks some idiot who happens to use the same last name. I'm not going to tell you who's who, but hopefully you know by now. It has now been 243 days since Inauguration Day. Yes, we are looking back at week 34 of the golden age, the American Renaissance, and what a week it has been. We learned that free speech is not for everyone, but only for a select few. You know, the people who hate the right way. You can say whatever you like as long as it's something positive about Donald. And you can say whatever you want, no matter how hateful it is, as long as you support Donald. Any other type of speech is strictly off limits. This is good to know. I think that means that we can't do this show anymore, but we're going to do it anyway because we're Americans and we believe in freedom of speech. I have a feeling that if being mean to Donald is considered unprotected hate speech, we might be in a little bit of trouble. He's so fragile. He's so weak that I think the best thing to do in such a circumstance is to continue doing what we're doing. Now, according to Donald, if you insist on being negative in his definition of the term, or if you speak out against him in any way, shape, or form, you should be prepared to lose everything, and you would deserve to. Because who could possibly be mean to Donald? He's such a great guy. And besides which, it isn't our country anymore, in his view. It's his to do with what he wishes. In the past 2 months, the Trump regime has silenced two of Donald's biggest critics. Now, the argument is that this is about the inflammatory comments made by Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert, or that the ratings of their shows are so low that they needed to be canceled. But there's more to this than meets the eye. FCC chair, the corrupt sycophantic Brendan Carr, who was selected by Donald for those very reasons, wrote the chapter for Project 2025 about the FCC, just may have planned all of this from the very beginning. Regardless of what Donald says, Jimmy Kimmel's show wasn't suspended because of what he said on Monday night. It was because of what he's been saying for years, attacking Donald because he's such a friggin' moron. But he was also removed for another reason. Donald let the cat out of the bag when he made it very clear that this is about anybody criticizing or going after Trump. I love it when he talks in the third person, by the way. So this was to give notice to anybody else who would dare make a joke, even if not a particularly good one, not even about Donald, but about anybody Donald considers an ally. So how would Donald have known 2 months ago that Jimmy Kimmel would soon lose his job if Brendan Carr hadn't been planning this all along? Here's what he posted to his failing social media platform back on July 18th. I absolutely love that Colbert got fired. His talent was even less than his ratings. I hear Jimmy Kimmel is next. Wow. Donald is many, many things, all of them vile, but I did not know that he was a prophet or some kind of visionary. I have a great idea. I know he's had some really bad experiences in Atlantic City. 6 bankruptcies. Seriously. Well done, little guy. But he could set up shop as a psychic. I can see it, just like a little tent on the boardwalk with a scarf and a big crystal ball. I think it would suit him enormously. Anyway, who would be next? Since this man with such great vision seems to understand what the future holds in store for all of us. Who is next on Donald's list? Well, he posted this on Thursday. Quote, "Great news for America. The Jimmy Kimmel Show is canceled. Kimmel has zero talent and worse ratings than even Colbert, if that's possible. That leaves Jimmy and Seth, two total losers on fake news NBC. Their ratings are also horrible. Do it, NBC." Unquote. Yeah, that doesn't sound like government interfering at all with an American citizen's right to free speech. No. Actually, that sounds like a direct threat. Now, the way things are going, though, with Carr at the FCC, all he needs to do is put pressure on the parent companies of these networks. And I'm pretty sure that Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers may not be long for this world. At least their shows may not be. So look, in the wake of all of this, the political divide in this country is greater than it's ever been. But there just must be a few voices in the Republican Party who will stand up and say, of course, free speech is protected, but let's bring civility back to Washington. Enough with the name calling. Yes, that sounds just like today's fascist Republican Party, doesn't it? So let's watch as the House of Representatives Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, pleads for calm for a divided nation.
That's not helpful. That is not productive, and it leads to bad consequences. Leaders cannot call their political opponents Nazis and fascists and enemies of the state because they disagree with their policy priorities. I mean, this is something we should have learned in grade school. This type of language spurs on depraved people, deranged people.
You don't say. Wow, it's alarming to agree with Mike Johnson, but he's right. And we've never heard this kind of name calling in American politics before. So it's good to know that we can be so clear about where all of this is coming from, right? The radical left, the Nazi radical left. Well, then I came across this.
American politics today is between these far-left fascists led by Harris and her group. We have a fascist person running who's incompetent. She's a Marxist, communist, fascist, socialist. She's not actually a socialist. She's gone past that. Somebody's got to explain this one. This is a radical left Marxist, communist, fascist.
Sorry. Yes, it is possible to be all of those things at the same time. No, it's not. Okay, so clearly, I think it's fair to say that Donald has been part of the problem for a very, very long time. He has been engaging in the kinds of violent, incendiary political rhetoric that has, in large part, brought us to this point. Some people in Donald's cabinet may not know what words mean, but neither does Donald. Because again, you can't be a communist, Marxist, socialist, fascist, Nazi and be one person, or at least have one personality. So we are going from not knowing what political words mean to not knowing what any economic terms mean. The economy is not going well, not well at all. Prices are sky high. Inflation is up. Consumer confidence is down. And with Donald's unwarranted, unconstitutional, and quite frankly, insane trade war looming, the entire world economy is on edge. Enter Secretary of Treasury and person voted most likely to have been created by artificial intelligence, Scott Bessent, went on Squawk Box to try once again to convince beleaguered host Joe Kernan of the economic sophistication of Donald Trump. This was just another in a series of complete and very public embarrassments from yet another woefully underqualified, I think we can go ahead and say unqualified cabinet pick. Let's watch.
Joe, as you know, President Trump's very sophisticated economically, and I think he has been right at almost every turn, whether it's his first term, his second term. And if he thought inflation were the problem for the American people, sure, he'd be willing to have rate hikes.
I hope he's the creation of AI, because if he's an actual human, somebody needs to check on him. Okay, so first of all, just saying that Donald Trump is sophisticated about anything, you're giving away the game right then. You are marking yourself out as the sycophantiest of the sycophants, first of all. Secondly, you'd like to think that the Treasury Secretary actually knows something about the economy, because if he did, well, let's take a look at Mr. Sophistication on this Fox State TV interview when, after Donald is faced with his tanking poll numbers, he's asked when the public should be expecting to feel some relief from high prices. As usual, he blamed the polls and pivoted to his typical perfect landing. The economy comeback is just around the corner, not at least a year or two away. If you don't believe it, see it for yourself.
We're going to have numbers that like nobody's ever seen before.
When do you think that people are going to feel that? Because we do see polling that doesn't poll well in the economy. The recent Fox polling said 52% say the economy is worse under this administration. You've got unemployment at the highest rate in 4 years. Groceries made a big jump in the last term. So how is that? You're looking forward with these plans that you just talked about. When will people feel that, Mr.
Well, when the factories start opening, I mean, right now we're building them. And, you know, Fox polling, I have to tell you, I've told you before, it's the worst polling I've ever had. It's always, I mean, during the election, they had me winning by a little bit, not by a massive amount. And Fox polling, I've told Rupert Murdoch, go get yourself a new pollster because he stinks. And this is for years now. Companies and factories all over, they're coming back from Mexico and Canada. We lost a lot to Mexico. We lost a lot to Canada. They're all coming back because of the tariffs. Without the tariffs, a different story, but they're coming back because of the tariffs. And you're going to see that kick in probably in a year or so.
Mm-hmm.
He looks great. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. One last thing. Donald has trained his cabinet well, and they are falling in line as they have done pretty much since the beginning. I mean, certainly since the beginning of Trump regime 2.0. Earlier this week, when the Fed was contemplating lowering interest rates, Donald's lackeys went on the offensive to paint a picture of the economy that aligns with Donald's complete and utter delusions. I want you to watch here as hack, sycophant, and moron economic advisor Peter Navarro just makes shit up on live state television.
It's a beautiful thing. And let's remind everybody, there's no inflation. None. Jay Powell, memo to Jay. No inflation, my friend.
Is that a thing that's humanly possible? Sorry. Is that a thing that's economically possible, that for there to be no inflation? I mean, I don't know, but here's what I do know. Right now, in this point in human history, in America, there is inflation. You know, that thing voters pretended to care so much about when Joe Biden was president? Well, inflation is on the rise, and it's pulling with it prices. So, congratulations to those 74 million Americans who thought this was a good idea. But yes, the delusion is strong with this cabinet. If we are to believe the Trump regime, there are a lot of things happening before our very eyes that are not what we think they are, or that are not happening at all. Take, for example, climate change. This is not a thing. Ignore the fact that if you once lived in a place with 4 seasons, there are only 2. Ignore the fact that places that used to have snow on the ground all winter long never have snow. Ignore the record-breaking heat. Yes, please do, at our peril. The thing is, though, a lot of people don't know that climate change is not a thing. But even if climate change were real, and let's pretend for the sake of the argument it is, even though according to the Environmental Protection Agency and the Department of Energy, it's not. But if it were, I'm pretty sure that the brain trust of the Trump regime could find somebody to blame. So let's watch here as Treasury Secretary Chris Wright tells us whose fault it is.
What do you want to say to Al Gore and the skeptics on this?
So Al Gore's nonsense is exactly what got us in this position. You know, he started peddling climate nonsense 20 years ago. The Arctic was going to have no ice anymore 10 years ago. Well, this year we had well more ice than we had 10 years ago in the Arctic. A complete train wreck. And Al Gore, like most people that peddle nonsense, doesn't recant. He's just doubling down on this stuff. But that's why I'm going to New York. That's why the president's going to address the United Nations General Assembly. We're just trying to bring back common sense.
Who? Just kidding. I remember who Al Gore is, but that was like in the Pleistocene era, for Christ's sakes. Also, he was right. I'm so happy that the right, who is accusing everybody else of waging war on America, has come up with another war. Move over, war on Christmas. Now we have the war on the thermometer. Good job. Moving on, it is time for the long anticipated Trump Trolls Trump Nancy Mace-Watch. Yep. That MAGA weather vane and bigoted transphobe and South Carolina Representative Nancy Mace was back this week with some pointed questions for Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser. Well, I'm not going to characterize it for you. It's Nancy Mace. It's pretty much what you would expect, but let's watch.
To create unique dynamics and effects. Can you explain what this means to the committee?
Where is that, ma'am?
Section 3-703 of the DC Code. Do you know what that means? No, you don't know what that means. So Chapter 14D of the DC Code establishes the commission.
I'm happy to answer questions.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to reclaim my time. This is not her time, it's my time. You can be quiet as I ask you questions, and then you can answer them. And then you can answer them. I'm not, Mr. Chairman, this is my time, not hers. I'd like to reclaim my time.
Let's make good use of the time, Ms.
Mace. I'm making very good use of my time. And you're making my point. Mayor Bowser, what is a woman?
I'm a woman. Are you a woman?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
I'm a woman. You're looking at one.
Okay, good.
She's charming. What an asshole. Seriously. By the way, what does biological identity have to do with the mayor of Washington, D.C.? Seriously. That woman is, quite frankly, unfit to serve. Or she's a Republican. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining this week's episode of Trump Trolls Trump. It has been a pleasure to mock the eminently mockable from Donald on down. So thanks for being here. We will be back next week at the same time for yet another episode of Trump Trolls Trump, because there will always be an infinite number of reasons to mock these absolute and utter morons. If this week has been any reminder that independent media is important now more than ever in America, this week would be it. If you would like to help, please like and share this video with your friends and, your enemies. That would be fun for all of us. And subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Thanks.